Alright guys, so new post this week and we're gonna get into John chapter 11. And I've been pretty excited about this one. So um, in chapter 11 verse 33 it says, when Jesus saw her weeping and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. Where have you laid him? He asked. Come and see, Lord, they replied. Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, see how he loved him. But some of them said, could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying? Jesus, once more, deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. Take away the stone, he said. And I'm going to stop there, but in chapter 11, it's about the death of Lazarus, and previously in the chapter, I think it's really important to note that Jesus already knew that he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead, and he had made that pretty vocal. And then afterwards, from where I left off, he goes on and does raise Lazarus from the dead. But in between, in the passage I read, two times it says Jesus was deeply moved, and one of them it says he wept. And I think that that's a really important passage, and one that I wish I would have known when everything was going on, because I think as Christians we often make our Jesus so distant and so beyond our knowledge, which he is, but there's so much in the Word that gives us so much of his character that we miss out on. And especially with people who have lost someone, as a Christian, a lot of times you're either questioning, where is God in that moment, or you've got it built up inside you that since it is his plan to take that person out of your life, and that he has a bigger plan, that you just set aside, like, well, since that's what God wants, he must not have any emotion about it. And we make our God to be emotionless, and we forget that he took the form of man as Jesus and experienced emotion. And in that passage, Jesus is with his best friends, and he sees their sadness and their sorrow, and he's moved by it to the point of tears multiple times. And I think that's just a really cool thing that, when I was going through everything with my mom, I had, was just like, well, it's God's will, and, whatever he wants done, he's going to make happen, and if that's the case, then I'm just going to be strong about it, and I just made him to be this distant, emotionless God that looked down on me for being sad about something that I had every right to be sad about, and that not only that, but he felt that sadness with me, even though he knew what was to come. I think it's just important to remember that your Jesus is not distant. Our God is not distant. And he did experience real pain and real emotion, and can relate to us completely in that moment, and can relate to us in our current pain and our sadness, and feels pain with us. And I think that's just a really cool thing. I really enjoy that passage because I feel like there's not many that really just show Jesus relating to his best friends in an emotional moment where he is literally just moved to the point of tears. Even knowing the eternal plan, and even knowing that he was going to raise Lazarus, he still felt sadness for his friends. He was never like, oh, you people, I'm going to raise him from the dead. Don't you know this? I've already said it previously in the chapter. No, he was still moved by their sadness because those were his friends. And even more so, we are his children, and when we're sad, he wants to be there to comfort us, and he feels our pain. And so that's just something that I think is good to know when you're going through a hard time, the loss of a family member or a friend, just to remember that your Jesus is not distant, and he is a comforting, loving God who really is in a relationship with you and is pursuing that relationship and feels your emotion and has been there. And so just find comfort in that your God is not distant, and He knows your pain. So have a good Tuesday. And this one was a lot shorter this week, thank God. So that way I'll stop making them about 8 minutes long. But I'm out.